Hey everyone. So we're a few weeks past the Olympic selection, haven't really done an update, and I'm getting kind of a lot of the same questions. So we're just going to go through some questions and how I'm feeling and talk about what's next.
Gwen, did you get selected for the Olympics?
I did not get selected for the Olympics. I am an alternate, as is Katie Zafiris. So there are two alternates.
Could you just walk us through and help everyone understand when nobody auto qualified, there were two spots that became available for discretionary? Can you give us a look into the window of time that they were doing and like the policy that was in place for that? Because a lot of people would say to you, hey, you won the 2016 Olympics, like you should go to the Olympics again. So can you just give us some insight and information on that?
So according to the policy, they couldn't look past 2 years. So they looked at 2023 and 2024 results. They couldn't, go back into 2021 or anything like that. And then, yeah, they looked at the document basically said if it's going to be based on discretion, they need to pick somebody that has a chance of winning a medal. And they actually reached out to everyone who was on this list. Like you could hit certain markers to get on this list. I think there's, five or six of us on the list. And they reached out to us and they said, answer these two questions. First one is, why are you the most likely candidate to be able to win a medal in the individual? And why are you the most likely candidate to win a medal in the relay? So they had each of us fill that out. And I filled that out. I felt very confident. Like I felt like I had a very strong case as to why I could win a medal. But I'm sure everyone that filled out that document felt the same way.
Yep. And then ultimately you weren't selected. Were you given any insight as to why you weren't selected?
I was told the other athletes showed consistency, and consistency shows medal potential.
Do you believe consistency shows medal potential?
The people who were selected were Taylor Spivey and Kirsten Casper, and I think they, did a phenomenal job showing up. At least like in Yokohama, they were fourth and fifth. Auto qualification there was third. They didn't meet that. But I think they did have probably some of their best performances that they've had at that race, and I think that was looked at. I think, there was a question that I got was like, if you were on the committee, like, would have you selected differently? Like, obviously, I would have selected myself, but obviously, I'm also biased towards myself. So, yeah, I don't want to, downput the other athletes. I think that they're, good athletes.
We've gotten a lot of questions around what's next for you. But I think maybe before we go into what's next, can you maybe rewind and give us a recap of like the last 2 years for you from when you started racing in, February of 23 and then, till right now it's June of 2024 and maybe give us like some of your highs and lows along the way and what, yeah.
I think, I'm going to answer that with as well talking about the Olympic selection. Like my whole goal was to make it to the Olympics. And when I started this journey in 2023, I think I was naive about how hard it would be to get into races. And so I couldn't get into WTCS races. Even this Olympic selection, like if you look at Kirsten, for example, she had 9 opportunities at the WTCS level to prove herself, and I had two where I had more than a week's notice. And so, yeah, I think I underestimated the ability to have opportunities to qualify. And then, in 2023, when I realized that they were going to sub in other people but not sub me in, I realized very quickly like I needed to earn points to get into races, to be in the top five and just earn it the hard way. And so I went out, I was very proud that I was able to win 4 World Cups in one season. As a breastfeeding mom, started racing less than 4 months postpartum. Like those things I think I'm really proud of. And if you've ever been a woman who's had a baby, I think you'd understand that. Yeah, and then when 2024 started, I was super excited. I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. We get to go to Abu Dhabi, we get to go to Yokohama, we get to go to Cagliari, and two of those opportunities were taken away from me. And so that was something that again put this big hurdle in place for me to qualify for the Olympics. And yeah, I think, just Abu Dhabi being canceled and USAT taking Cagliari away from me after I was in the top five, I think were another two huge obstacles that I had to overcome and wasn't able to do that. Before all this, like last year when I was competing and wasn't able to get into WTCS races, like Pat, this, other people that are in my circle, I talked a lot about like what I wanted to do. And people are always like, oh, you just want to go to the Olympics and be done. And that was never it. Like I always wanted to finish the 2024 season and go after, the world championships in 2025. So that's always been on my radar since last year. And that's something that I am, going to do. So I'm going to, finish out this WTCS series. So there's Hamburg, there's a race in China, and there's a race, the grand final in Spain, and then compete next year as well in the WTCS circuit.
And, obviously there's a lot of talk around additional series in long course. Does something like the T100 or the Ironman Pro Series, pique your interest?
Yeah, I have a lot of people asking me, like, are you going to go to long course? Why not T100? You'd be great at it. It's the perfect distance for you. And they offered me a lot of money to do it this year. They offered me early on in the year. I said, no way. They offered to me again after not being selected for the Olympics. And that's just not really something I have interest in right now. So I'm going to do a pass on that for the year.
Do you if you somehow got the fever to do that tomorrow, do you even have a triathlon bike that you could do it on?
I do not have a TT bike.
And you're happy about that. That's not a knock at your sponsor. You're
I have not asked for a TT bike, nor will I ask for a TT bike.
All right, cool. Talk to us about what has actually been, really enjoyable maybe on this return and what you're looking forward to, the rest of the season and in 2025.
Yeah, I think my return to triathlon has been enjoyable because I've really focused on my why, my reason, like why I'm doing this. And that's not just about like winning, but it's more about like what motivates me, who do I want to embody as a person. I think you didn't ask me this, but I'm just thinking of like there's been multiple times throughout the year where I've had other athletes come up to me and been like, we need to change this, we need to do this, and this needs to change to make triathlon better. And people listen to you, Gwen. You should make the change. And I laugh because like I don't have the ability to change things, and I think people think my voice matters, and I think it does in a way. But for the things that people want changed, I'm not able to change that. And back in my previous campaign, in 26 going into 2016, I think a lot of people don't know just some of like the politics that were very frustrating for me and a big reason why I quit triathlon. And this time around, when I see things that are frustrating or rules not being followed or things like that, I'm somebody who's always gonna say something, and I think that makes people angry at me for sticking up for what should be done and what's fair. But I do think this time around, there may be those same issues, but this time around, I say something when something's not right. And I think that makes me feel like even if I'm not making a difference, it makes me feel like I'm able to make a difference. And that makes this feel more enjoyable as well. Like hopefully for the future generations, things might be better.
Yep. And, you kind of got me a little sidetracked here, but you talked about one of your reasons for leaving. And, a common misconception that people have is you left triathlon because you went and made a ton of money over at Nike running. Can you clear that up for all of us and maybe share some insight on that process and experience?
I've never heard that before. But yeah, I definitely, I've never been in sport for the money. And I think I made way less money by switching to running. And, as well, like I could do the T100 and get paid way more right now. But I choose not to do that for the money either. And I really am motivated by, for me, last year it was about like being bold. And this year it's about, being adaptable, being curious. And these are things that I want to embody and, being a role model to my children. And so that's really things that are things that really motivate me and keep me happy and enjoying this process.
Gwen, let's talk about the last week, just emotionally. How has it been for you as an athlete and just not just as an athlete, but as a person? How has that been?
Yeah, emotionally, I would say I'm honestly, the hardest part of this year for me was when I was taken out of Cagliari. It was a complete surprise to me. I felt like I had earned my spot there. And I just got an email after I'd been on the start list for a week. I got an email and said, "Hey, we're taking you off. We're putting somebody else in." And I was just devastated. Probably still not over that. But the Olympics, I kind of knew what the selection was. I knew what the process was. I knew the documents they were going to go through and what they were going to do. And I fully expected, once I got taken out of Cagliari, I knew like, wow, if they're going to take me out of races, there's no way they're going to put me into a race. So I've always said from day one of this journey that if I didn't auto qualify, that I wouldn't then be selected. And so yeah, I filled out this document and was convinced myself that I was the only logical choice to be picked. But I also knew that based on history that they would never choose me. So when I got when I got the news, it wasn't like devastation like it was from Cagliari or, even after Yokohama, I was pretty upset emotionally and took some time away as a family just to kind of get away from triathlon. Yeah, Yokohama was a race. It was an interesting race for me because it showed me that I can still win at this level. And even though I got 15th place, right? And I remember like last year there was a race, I think it was, what race was it? There was a race, Sunderland, that I got into and raced that WTCS. And after that, Pat's like, "Gwen, you can win again." I was like, "You're ridiculous." Like, I didn't feel that back then, but Yokohama to me showed me that I do have the capability to win at this level. So to finish that race in 15th was just pure something that I made a mistake. And so that was really hard for me to process.
This is a question from social media that you put out, but one of the questions asked about LA 2028. Is it too early to ask that question?
Oh, what's funny is LA 2028. So when I was pregnant with George and I was swimming with Morgan Pearson, Taylor Knibb, and they're like, "Gwen, you should come back for 2028." In their minds, they were like, it's impossible to do 2024. I think if you look at like what I tried to accomplish, basically only having literally 2 opportunities to do it, like it would have been insane. I still think I could have done it. I didn't. Point. Anyway, they were like, "You should come back for 2028, like home games. We could win the relay." So anyway, I'm not going to answer that question yet. I think it's so far away. There's so many other things like, Pat and I, possibly more children. I definitely want to keep competing. So there's a lot to work into that mix. And I don't really know, like right now I feel like I am still really fit. I'm still at my best, but I'm 38 years old. Like 4 more years, how will I feel? I don't know. I'm going to wait and see.